Was yesterday the latest evidence of this Nick Foles magic?
No. No, it was not. No, it was not. You know what I'm saying? Listen.
You're a mean one.
I'm
Mr.
not a mean one.
Grinch.
I'm not
You
a
know
mean
they were
one.
heavy underdogs, right?
It's not Christmas. It's not Christmas, and I'm not being the Grinch here. And I recognize the fact that Nick Foles deserves our respect. I'm really happy for him. Everybody that you talk to, they talk about what an incredibly nice guy he is, family man, all of that stuff. Obviously, as a backup, he's done a tremendous job. He's 4-1 in playoff games. Let's give him credit where credit is due. I'm not trying to take any credit away from Nick Foles. But I'm going to ask people right now, did you watch the game yesterday?
Yeah.
Did you see that Eagles defense show up? I saw it. I saw an Eagles defense that played lights out. I mean, you got Maddox, this rookie. You look at their seven, their back seven, not their front seven, but their back seven with Kruger Hill, with Hicks, Brandon, Maddox, Douglas, Graham, Jenkins. These brothers were special yesterday. Give credit where credit is due. Let's also give a hell of a lot of love to Mr. Jason Peters, the 15-year veteran who, by the way, played the majority of the game in one-on-one coverage against the Mac Daddy himself, Khalil Mack, and contained him. I wonder what Nick Foles would have been able to do if Khalil Mack had been all over him yesterday. Leonard Floyd and those boys have been all over him. That was not the case. The Eagles' offensive line played a big-time game yesterday. They were led by their veteran, Jason Peters, who showed up and played lights out as far as I'm concerned. So I look at it from that perspective. I'm not taking anything away from Nick Foles. I'm not even holding the 2 interceptions in the second quarter against him. I understand that game-winning drive, 4 minutes, what was it, 4 minutes, 48 seconds left. I get all of that. Completed like 6 or 9 passes. I give credit where credit is due. I'm not taking anything away from him. But the Eagles ended up scoring 16 points. They ended up winning because Parquet, not Butter, Parquet ended up missing that field goal, even though it was tipped. It was tipped. And a lot of people were getting on him because they were thinking that he just missed the field goal when, in fact, it got tipped by an Eagles defender. So
Trayvon Hester got his hand on the ball.
Trayvon Hester, that's his name. My point is this. At the end of the day, if we're looking at that final drive, and that's what we want to predicate everything on, I get it. But when you walk away scoring 16 points for the game, and that defense, well, what the Eagles said, remember, 10 injuries, 4 in the secondary, coming into the playoffs, they have been hobbled all year long. I'm going to give the defense most of the credit.
That's fine. You can give the defense plenty of the credit. When the Giants went on their Super Bowl run and beat the undefeated Patriots, the defense deserved a ton of credit.
Yeah.
Did Eli have some magic? Yeah. Yeah, of course. Tom Brady early in his career, when the Patriots defense was getting it done, did Tom Brady have some magic? Yeah. And what we're asking here is, was it about Nick Foles or was it evidence of Nick Foles' magic? Dude, they haven't stopped winning since Nick Foles took over at quarterback. And if you want to point to the way the rest of the team is playing, well, no kidding, it's the playoffs. You're on the road against the best defense in the NFL. Of course it's going to be tough. Of course the whole team is going to have to contribute. That doesn't mean this is not evidence of Nick Foles' magic. Think about the way the offensive line has been playing. It's not just that Khalil Mack wasn't able to get to Nick Foles. This from Sheil Kapadia of The Athletic in Philadelphia. Posted it on Twitter. Last 4 games, right, the 4 wins, they faced Khalil Mack, Aaron Donald, and J.J. Watt. How many quarterback sacks among those 3?
I don't know the number.
0. 3 hits.
No, I thought you was asking how much did they have.
Right. 3 hits, no sacks. Like, that offensive line, not just Peters, who's been playing excellent, Lane Johnson and company, the whole line has been playing. But you have to, like, the whole point of Nick Foles is not just that he can orchestrate a game-winning drive, which he did. It's also that there's something about him, no knock on Carson Wentz, but there's something about Nick Foles that, as you would say, galvanizes the troops, gets these guys playing together, gets these guys believing. It's apparent. They think of the Super Bowl run they went on. Now they've gone on another run to make the playoffs with Nick Foles and just beat the Bears at Soldier Field. You're going to say that's not evidence of Nick Foles' magic?
Well, allow me to explain, because obviously we have two definitions of magic. If I sat up there and told you that it was no big deal, that would be entirely different. I'm not trying to say that I understand a game-winning drive is a game-winning drive, Molly and Max. Here's where I'm coming from. Your definition of magic is different from mine, because when you say that, you're implying in my mind that he's doing something Carson Wentz could not or would not have done. And all I'm saying to you is this. We saw Carson Wentz go down with an injury last year. We saw him go, obviously the nasty knee injury. We saw him go back down this year with the with the cracked vertebrae. We get all of that. I'm saying to you, could Carson Wentz have scored 16 points? Yes. Could Carson Wentz have done what Nick Foles done with the protection that the offensive line provided?
Here's the problem.
Yes.
Here's the problem. This is like when I say, hey, the Houston Rockets last year, missing their second best player, an emotional leader, miss every three-pointer they take, basically, still only lose by single digits, and you'll say what to that? May have turned out differently if circumstances were different, Golden State would have answered, right? In other words, you're trying to say that only 16 points, Carson Wentz could have done that. You're assuming the rest of the team responds the same way. The point of the Nick Foles, quote-unquote, magic is that not only do they simplify things offensively, maybe, right, and they're not asking too much of Foles, but obviously everyone knows Foles can't do all the things Carson Wentz can do. What does that do to the rest of the team? We all got to step up. Each one of us has to try to do a little bit more individually, collectively. And when you have a player that they like and that they believe in, that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That's what we're saying.
Well, I guess what I'm saying to you is that you're looking at it that way, but I'm looking at it from the standpoint that maybe Doug Pederson simplifies things when Nick Foles is in the lineup, whereas with Carson Wentz, he's asking Carson Wentz to do entirely too much. So maybe it's about the coach and how he coaches one quarterback compared to the other. When you talk about Carson Wentz, when people, not you say, but when people have talked about Carson Wentz and they talk about him trying to do too much, en route of completing 69% of his passes, throwing for over 3,000 yards, throwing 21 touchdowns, just 7 interceptions. Along the way, when you look at him, what you see is an individual that you might go out there, you might look at a Jeffries, or you might look at an Aguilar, and you might look at these guys, and you might look at the tight end duo of Goddard and Ertz, and you look at them and you say, okay, absent a running game, we need Carson Wentz to show out.